Let's talk to Cutler. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to Cutler.
Good evening, everybody. Hey, it's Cutler here, the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club. I'll tell you all why I'm laughing. I was just singing the song as it was playing, and I was singing, I was dancing, and I thought, wow, I wonder if they could see me while the music is playing, if they would laugh or if they would join in. It's that kind of day. Sometimes when it's raining outside, you just have to make your own party and dance in the rain and just go for broke and dance like nobody's looking, and just make your own party. So this channel obviously is about inspiration, it's about motivation. It's also about challenging us to show up better tomorrow than we did today. It's also about making sure that we did our best to try to show up better today than we did yesterday. It doesn't mean that yesterday was a flop. Doesn't mean that today is the flop either. It means that we're just taking the time to see what we can do to show up better. It means that we're being intentional about being our best selves. We're being very intentional about showing up as best as we can. And that's what we talk about in these 1800 seconds when I show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, trying to make sure that I challenge us, trying to make sure that I motivate us, trying to make sure that I somehow inspire us, not just you all, but me as well, to be better tomorrow than I am today. That's what this channel is all about. So if you're wondering, what is this guy up here for? What is he talking about? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to talk about every Tuesday and Thursday. So do me a favor. If you haven't done so, please go ahead and subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure that you hit the notification bell. It lets you know whenever I've gone live and whenever I've uploaded new content, because I want you to join me. I want to see my friends. I want to make sure that you all join me. Also, if you haven't done so as you're coming into the chat room, please do me a favor. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up conversation, the thumbs up. Give a thumbs up to the conversation. It lets YouTube know, it lets YouTube know that you are enjoying the conversation. And it says to me that you are somehow encouraged by the subject matter, the content that I try to present in a very transparent fashion every Tuesday and Thursday whenever I show up. I want to I enjoy acknowledging the LTTC VIPs. Those are the people who sometimes jump to the chat before I do. They beat me in the chat. But it gives me joy to see people join, and it gives me joy to see people catching the replay and all of that. It gives me joy to see people jumping in, speaking to each other, saying hi and how are you doing and how was your day, and letting me know that you are bored and letting me know that you are ready for our conversation as we just share a moment. And I'm always delighted. I'm always thankful for whatever space you've allowed me to share in your home, in your heart, in your personal space, whether it's your living room, your dining room, or wherever you are, your family room. Let me just say thank you for that. I don't take it for granted. But I got to tell you, I was dancing as the music was playing. I was doing all of this because I was just thankful. I was living in the moment, and I was thankful that I'm still here, thankful that I am still alive, thankful that I get another chance, thankful that I get another opportunity, thankful that I have a reasonable portion. When I was growing up in the South, is something that I used to hear the older people say, and now it makes so much sense to me. I'm thankful that I have a reasonable portion of health and strength. Everything is not always functioning 100%. Sometimes I have a few aches, and I have a few bends, and I have a few things that are not working like they should, a few pains and a few ailments. But I'm so thankful that things are as well as they are. I have a reasonable portion of health and strength. And for that, I'm glad. And I'm glad to be able to share with family and friends. I'm glad to be able to exchange moments that matter. I'm glad to have people in my life who matter. Sounds like I'm just sharing all of my moments and my reasons for being thankful, but I am. I'm thankful, and I tend to look on the positive side of life. I'm glad that I can do that. I'm glad that I have the kind of perspective that allows me to do that. And I'm thankful whenever people want to participate in that, and they want to be a part of it, and they want to share as much as I want to be a part of other people's lives. And I want to share in the positivity that's taking place in their lives and the goodness that's going on in their lives. So I want to catch up with what we've been talking about. But before I catch up with what we've been talking about, do me a favor, invite somebody else to come on and talk to Cutler. We're going to continue our conversation with how do we take the high road, because a lot of times it's a bit challenging for us to stay here when people are trying to pull us down. Sometimes people want to pull you down, and sometimes you're tempted to go down. But for the past conversation and this one, we're going to talk about how to stay up here, how to just take the high road, no matter what life brings, no matter what people say, no matter how people present their arguments and their conversations and their perspectives and their positions. We're going to talk about how do I take the high road? And we know that taking the high road is not always the easiest thing to do. So from a very tongue-in-cheek kind of way this evening, I want to continue that conversation and just throw out some helpful hints and throw out some tips about how do I still keep the high road? How do I keep the high road? I'm thinking about some of the challenges that I've had in life, thinking about the times when people try to pull me down. Sometimes, people when people don't know you, they create a narrative about who you are. And when they can't create an accurate narrative, then they create a narrative that fits their limited view of you. I hope I'm helping somebody when I say this. When people don't know you, they try to create a narrative of who you are. But many times when you don't fit their limited narrative, then it frustrates them. And what they do, they retaliate because they don't know the fullness of who you are, and they are intimidated by the fullness of who you are. So their narrative does not quite fit who you are. I'm trying to make sense of why people can seemingly target you sometimes for no reason. You haven't done anything to anybody, and the next thing you know, your name is involved in a not so positive light. Your name is involved in a scandal. Your name is involved in a negative light. And you ask yourself, where did that come from? What did I do? How is this happening? Sometimes it's because people will create a narrative about you when they want to be in your life, but they don't have full access to your life. That's what I need to say again. There are people who want to be a part of your life, and they don't always have full access to your life. So they will sometimes create a narrative to explain why they are not a part of your life. I hope that makes sense to somebody. So I want you to be encouraged. So sometimes your name is just caught in the wind. Your name is just caught in the mud. Your name is just pulled along, because sometimes people in their microscopic perspective of you, they don't grasp the fullness of who you are. I didn't even intend to say all of that, you all, but sometimes we sit back and we wonder, why are people talking about me? I didn't do anything. It's not like I have multi-million dollars. It's not like I own a castle. It's not like I drive a Lamborghini and a Rolls Royce and a Maserati. I don't drive all of those things, but sometimes we wonder. And so I want to offer us part 2 of the conversation that says how to take the high road when we're sometimes tempted to take the low road. And don't ever forget this, you all. Nobody has the ability to pull you down. They can tempt you to lower yourself, but they don't have the ability to pull you down. Nehemiah, I've said this before, Nehemiah was up on the wall, and the people were not able to pull him down. They said, Nehemiah, why don't you come down? They didn't have the ability to pull him down, but people would tempt you to lower yourself. And Nehemiah said, why do I need to come down? I'm up here, I'm doing a good work. So just remember, people can sometimes come out of left field, come out of nowhere with things that tempt you to take the low road. But after our conversation this evening, we're going to be a little more empowered to take the high road and stay upon the high road. All right? Because life is just that. Life is just life. But sometimes we need a little reminder of how to stay on the high road. And that's what I'm going to talk about for these next 1,800 seconds. Listen, let me just do a shout out to Annie Cutler, the first 3 people to jump into the chat room. Annie Cutler says, let's ride, get aboard. Linda Martin says, good evening, I'm aboard. Jet Shelley. Sheely says, always with this hi to everybody. So it's good to see all of you. But I want to continue our conversation about taking the high road, because it's not always easy to do. It is not always easy to do. So be encouraged. If you didn't get the first few things that we talked about, go back and catch the replay of why or how to take the high road. And then the next thing I want to start off, I'm not going to go back and read or talk about everything that we talked about before. So just encourage people to go back and catch the replay. All right. This is part two, how to take the high road. One of the ways that we need to take the high road is resist the urge to behave badly. Just resist the urge. And I tell you all, I know that it's easier said than done, but sometimes you've got to resist the urge to behave badly. I think about all the things and some of the dumb stuff that as young people we used to do. And when I thought about it again, I said to myself, yeah, as young people, we used to do that stuff. We were children, and children don't always have the wisdom of the years or the ability to process. And sometimes I wonder if adults have learned anything from their years. I'm taking off and I don't want to go to 10 so fast, but you all, I think about it. I think about that. I would give children a pass. I would say they are young, they are immature, they're inexperienced, but I think, and I sometimes wonder if adults have learned anything from their years. Children would do a lot of things because they don't have the wisdom of time. They don't have the benefit of time. But when we become adults, there are some childish things that we need to put away. Children would spread rumors. Children would try to get even. Children would just do all kinds of fickle stuff. I remember, and I'm just going to be transparent and tell you, I remember as a child when I was going to elementary school, and sometimes we would want to get even with people. And we would write their names on the bathroom walls and write nasty stuff about them. We'd pass notes to over the school population, just trying to get even with people. But nowadays, and we would start rumors and lies, but nowadays, be careful, you all, because that sort of thing, that sort of childish thing can have legal implications and consequences. Spreading rumors and lies. Don't do that as an adult, because those sorts of things now can amount to things like defamation and harassment, and they carry civil and criminal penalties and liabilities. Don't do that as adults. Just resist the urge. Take the high road. Resist the urge to behave badly. I hope I'm helping somebody, because somebody will be cast or thrust into a situation, and you will have to tell yourself, you know what, I can't behave like a child. I have to behave like the adult that I am. I've learned wisdom. I've gained wisdom through my years. I've learned something through my time here on this thing that's called Earth. Let me at least act like I have. And then the next thing, you all, the next thing, if we're going to take the high road, if we're going to maintain the high road, take the high road means doing what's morally right, doing the right thing, making the right decision, even in the face of difficulties. When it's not the most popular thing, we do the right thing when it's just right to do right. Can I tell you something else I would suggest that we do, y'all? It is called forgiving. I had to make a note to self. The other day, I made a note to self. Forgive even when you don't think you've done anything wrong. Learn to forgive even when you don't think that you've done anything wrong. And this is not an indictment. I mentioned this before because I wanted to be very clear about this. Come on, as you come into the chat room, please make sure that you say hi so that I know you're here. I see you, Kimberly and Annie and Teacup. I see you all. But this is not an indictment. It's just an observation that I want to make. I've never seen a day and age or time when so many moral people, or people who say that they are moral, are actually behaving immorally. I just as well go here with what I'm trying to say. I've never seen a day or age when believers and people who hold to or ascribe to a certain kind of faith, when so many of them are doing things like seeking revenge, trying to get even, rather than praying for their enemies and those who despitefully use them. I don't understand how we can sometimes commit what I call spiritual homicide, killing our brothers and our sisters with our tongues. Let's just forget that. Forgive even when you don't think you've done anything wrong, because when you learn to forgive, you learn that you're extending the same grace in the same space that you hope others will give you one day. Don't forget, forgiveness releases you. It releases you from the bondage that other people thought they had over you. I've learned that, you all. I am the master of forgiveness. I've learned that forgiveness is about you, and it releases you from the bond that other people thought they had over you. Got to learn how to forgive. And forgiveness does not mean that what the other person did was right, but what it means is that you are making yourself okay. It doesn't mean that what they did was okay. It means that you're making yourself okay. How are you making yourself okay, Cutler? How am I doing it? Because you're releasing them from the bondage that they thought they had over you. I release you. I forgive you. Now, when I forgive you, and I've said this before, when I forgive you, it does not mean that you get access back into my life. That's not what forgiveness means. Forgiveness means I've released you, and now I have the power as to whether or not I want to engage in another relationship with you or not. That's what forgiveness is all about. So if you want to take the high road, you want to learn to take the high road, forgive, even when you don't think that you've done anything wrong. Just forgive. And then can I offer you all another one? If you want to take the high road, you all learn how to stop trying to recreate the past. The past may have been good, it may have been wonderful, but stop trying to recreate the past all the time. Don't let people drag you backwards. I love to reminisce. I love to have conversations with my family and with my friends and say, do you remember the time? Do you remember when we used to do this? Do you remember that? Do you recall? I love those moments. It makes for great family conversations. It makes for great friendship reunions. It makes for wonderful things, but don't let people try to drag you back into the past. Sometimes we try to recreate old memories and old experiences and sometimes old relationships, but there's something healthy about recalling in a positive way, yet moving on into the future. Some of the things is just who I am. Some of the things that come to mind, I think of certain scriptures that say things like, remember not the former things. I think of certain promises that say that remind me that the latter will be better than the former. It'll be greater than the former. You have to look at your future with hope. Look at your past with thanksgiving, but look at your future with hope. Don't try to always recreate the past, because sometimes when we let people drag us backwards, it hinders us from moving forward. Because sometimes when people try to drag us backwards, they try to drag us back into those negative experiences. And I don't know about you all. Well, yes, I do. But for me and for many of you, one of the things that I'm not going to do, I'm not going to experience the things that I've already survived. There's some hurdles, there's some hurts, there's some failures, there's some fumbles. There's some things that I'm not going to experience because I've already survived. I'm not trying to re-experience those. I just made up a word, re-experience. I'm not trying to experience some of those things that I've already survived. There are some things that we've outgrown. I love being nostalgic. I love recapturing memories, but you have to be careful because you don't want people to drag you back into the past to the point that you're experiencing some of those hurts and hurdles and challenges and that stuff all over again. Because if you want to take the high road, now we're talking about taking the high road. If you want to take the high road, you want to go back. You don't want to go back and say, you know what? I remember how they treated me. I remember when they did this. I remember when they did that. That's just negative stuff. And in particular, if you're going to forgive means moving forward. I don't need to dwell on the past. I don't need to recreate it. I don't need to reevaluate it. I don't need to reanalyze it. I don't need to reprocess it. I need to move forward. So let's not try to recreate the past. And here's something else that I want to offer, y'all. Learn to think for yourself. Learn to think for yourself in terms of taking the high road. Cutler, what do you mean? When I say learn to think for yourself, it's because I want us not to succumb to your friend's way of thinking or your family's way of processing things. Sometimes friends and family members have a tendency to process things the same way that we do. The people who are closest to us, the people who are in our circles, the people who are in our space, sometimes we process things alike. And when you're trying to take the high road, you want to be also careful about following the advice of family members and the advice of friends who think or who may think and process things the same way that you do, because true friends and family members, sometimes you think alike. And you have to be careful. And in that space and in that moment, you may want to say to them, I might want to see what someone else has to say about this, because we tend to think alike. Now, if you can be that friend who is objective and can give another perspective, that's wonderful. I think that's amazing. I think that's great. But more often than not, we process things the same way. The people who upset me may be the same people who upset my friends or my family members. So just remember that sometimes taking the high road, it means that you have to learn to think for yourself and don't always consult people who you know might just think like you. I had to learn to do that. Let me let me see if I can get someone who doesn't necessarily think like I think, doesn't necessarily process things like I process. And speaking of how I process, here's something that you all, let's learn to focus on the positives. Learn to focus on the positive because we know, and you all tell me if you find this to be true, you cannot help what comes into your mind. Sometimes it is just the truth. It is what it is. Sometimes negative thoughts will come to mind, and we can't always help what comes into our mind. I hope I'm talking to somebody. You cannot always help what comes into your mind, but one of the things that I've said before is you can help how you process it. You might can't help how it comes or what thoughts come into your mind, but you can help how you process the thoughts. And you can process them by not dwelling on the negative. How do I sometimes do that, Cutler? Well, I'll tell you how I do it. There are many times when if a negative thought comes into my mind and I'm trying to shake it, I'm trying to relieve it, I'm trying to release myself from it, I'm trying to just literally create another canvas in my mind. One of the things that I do, I will literally get up, walk away, change the scene. I'll change my setting and my surrounding. So that will help me to change my mind. It helps me to change my thoughts. Sometimes I literally have to leave where I am in that moment and go just reposition myself, go to another room, go to another space. Because you cannot help the negative thought. Linda, thank you for letting me know. It's true. Had one a few minutes ago, had to push it away. We really do. We have to do that. These thoughts will come to our minds because we are bombarded. We are human and we are bombarded by our experiences. Things are so connected. Our experiences, our circumstances, our situations, and sometimes the people in our lives are so connected until they're connected to the very thoughts that we have. And many times you have to push or pull or rip yourself away from a negative thought. I'm telling you, I know this to be true because if we're talking about how to take the high road, a lot of times we're trying to take the high road because there's a negative thought that seems not to want to leave us. And Cutler, how do I shake it? How do I break myself away from it? This is what we're really talking about tonight. How do I break myself away from the negative thoughts that come into my mind that want me or that challenge and tempt me to go to the low road, to go there? Sometimes we say to people, oh, you're pushing me there. Those are the negative thoughts. And how do we handle those? How do we take the high road in those moments? Sometimes you've got to get up, change your setting, change your scenery, change your space. Because sometimes changing your setting, change your scenery, changing your space will help you to change your mind. It will help you to change how you process things. That, I'm telling you, that works for me. And negativity is not always about getting even. Sometimes negativity is that woe is me. Sometimes the negativity is just, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of that, I'm sick of them. Sometimes the negativity is, it's never going to get better. It's always going to be this. I've seen the best before and I only have the worst ahead of me. Just negativity. And you have to learn how to process that different because you cannot help what comes to your mind, but you can help how you process it. It is my hope that that helps somebody. Don't let people make you feel bad because negative thoughts come into your mind, because I promise you negative thoughts come into theirs as well. All right. But learn how. It is a process, you all. That is why I'm saying learn how to focus on the positives. We have to practice that repetitiously, repeatedly. We have to practice. We have to drill it into ourselves to focus on the positive. Yes, I recognize the negative thought. I know it's a negative thought. My health is never going to get better. That's a negative thought. I have to learn how to process things differently. No one loves me. I have to learn how to process that differently. No one is concerned about me. I have to learn how to process that differently. I've seen all of my better days. I have to learn how to process that differently. It's only downhill from here. I've got to learn how to process those things differently. Maybe one evening I'll come back and we'll just have a clinic workshop about processing those things differently. Focus on the positive and don't dwell on the negative. Change your setting, your scenery, and your scenery and your surroundings, because it will help you change your mind. Let me move on to the next one, you all. But I could stay there about focusing on the positives. And then here's something else. When we're talking about avoiding, or when we're talking about taking the high road, when you so often want to take the low road, you definitely want to make sure, this next one, you definitely want to make sure that you don't get caught up in doing this. Because we are fragile, as much as we don't always want to admit it. As humans, we are fragile. We are thin-shelled and thin-skinned, and we don't want to admit it. So we will allow our egos to sometimes show up. But because we are fragile, and we can be bruised emotionally or psychologically and mentally bruised, we can be bruised and hurt. One of the things that we do in terms of trying to get back, we start spreading rumors. Don't do that. If you want to take the high road, avoid spreading rumors. And I know people can become very creative with what we want to sometimes say about people that we're not so fond of. I know. We know, because sometimes some of us have been the victims of people spreading rumors. And sometimes we've heard people spreading rumors. It's so easy to do. We are very creative when it comes to creating things that we want to say about people. I talked about it earlier, creating a narrative. That's what people will do. Sometimes we create narratives about people that we're not fond of. Sometimes we create narratives about people that we don't know. It all sounds very childish, and it is, but adults do this. And if we're going to take the high road, one of the things we have to learn how to do, one of the things that we need to remember, is not to spread rumors. Don't get involved with spreading rumors. Avoid the whole notion and the concept of spreading rumors. And that is so connected to the next thing that I want to offer us as a helpful hint to take the high road. Don't get involved in other people's drama. Just don't. Don't get involved in other people's drama. I sometimes have to remind people, I don't have an issue with everyone that you have an issue with. We might be friends, we may be in the same social circle, we may work together, we may fellowship together, but I don't have an issue with everyone that you have an issue with. I can't get involved in your drama. That's your drama. I cannot get involved with your drama. I don't love everybody that you love, and I don't hate everybody that you hate. And I can't always stop talking to people just because you stop talking to them. This one is a bit challenging sometimes, you all, when I say don't get involved in other people's drama. Consider this. Suppose you had a friend, or suppose you were friends with a couple and they are divorcing. And now you are friends with both of them. I have to create these scenarios sometimes so I can paint the picture and help us. I want you all to think about this. Suppose you are a good friend with the husband and the wife in a relationship, and they are going through a divorce. What happens in a scenario like that is that a lot of times we feel forced to make a choice, or we feel as though one of them might be pulling us to choose who to follow and who to associate with as a result of the separation that they're going through. You have to be very careful in situations like that. People will try to make you pick loyalties, but you have to be careful not to get involved in other people's drama, because it's so easy to do, especially when the people are people that you're fond of, the people that you love. But you have to be careful to step back and say that drama belongs to them. I don't need to own it. I don't need to own any baggage or any luggage or any weights that are not mine. And for as much as I may love an individual, for as much as I may love a couple, for as much as I may love people, I, I, I am not always equipped to carry their drama, to carry their issues, and to carry their weights. I may be a source of guidance, a source of counsel, a source of advice, a source of inspiration, a source of motivation, a source of listening. I may be a source of many things, but a lot of times you have to remember, don't get involved with other people's drama. All right. I have so many more. I thought I would finish all of these, but I think what I may do, I may come back one more time and finish our conversation about how to take the high road. If you don't find this conversation and the one that we had previously, applicable to you, maybe there's someone that you can share this with, because a lot of times, I'm telling you all, in the midst of political elections, in the midst of the things that we go through on a daily basis, in the midst of what we hear on the news, sometimes the negative thoughts can come to our mind, and people can say things that we don't always like, things that we don't always agree on. They have strategies for doing certain things that we don't necessarily see eye to eye with them. So we have to be careful and make sure that we learn, let me just take the high road. I may not agree with you, but let me take the high road. And even in how I disagree, let me take the high road. Did you not know that you can disagree with people and still take the high road in how you disagree? I just want to share that with you all. Listen, I'm so thankful for this conversation, because it reminds me that we've got work to do as humans. It reminds me that on this road that's called better, there's so much growth that we can still do. For me, this is an area where I have not reached perfection. Not that I ever will, but it is an area that I am ever so mindful and conscientious about, making sure that I strive to do the right thing. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I dot every I? No. Do I cross every T? Absolutely not. Do I always get it right the first time? No, I don't always get it right the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sometimes the 10th time. But guess what? I'm striving. And taking the high road is one of the things that I'm still striving to do, because life and people can sometimes pull and push you and provoke you and prod you and do all of those sorts of things. But guess what? It's conversations like this that remind me to do the right thing, even when it's not always popular to do the right thing. Thank you all so much for spending these 1,800 seconds with me. I'm thankful. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Keep your heads up. Keep your hopes up. Stay safe. Stay sane. Let's keep on striving to take the high road. In your individual lives, when we're sometimes challenged to come down off the mountain, when we are challenged to come down off of the good things that we know that we're doing, remember, people cannot pull you down. They can tempt you to lower yourselves. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to stay on the high road. Please know that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. And I hope to see you all the next time I'm here, which will be Thursday at 8 o'clock and Eastern time. And I'll be here for 1,800 seconds. Please know, again, from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Keep taking the high road. Tell somebody else, come on, let's talk to Cutler. Good night, everybody. I'll see you all next time.